What is going on? It's your girl C-Positivista. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I want to share about the time I got shipped back to Angola. Let's go. So in 2010, I got shipped back to Angola. Everybody knew, like everyone in the family knew that that was going to happen. But me, like everyone knew apart from me. So just a little background story. So I was born in Angola. And if you don't know where Angola is, okay, it's in Africa, okay, here's the map right here. So I was born in Angola and came to the UK when I was very young, okay, and I essentially lived with my mum's side of the family. So I was here living with family. While I lived here in the UK with my mum's side of the family, my parents, my mum and my dad, they lived in Angola. So like I said, in 2010 there was a family breakdown, and when I tell you this family breakdown was one of the most messiest, one of the most like traumatizing events that has ever happened and taken place in my family. But for the time being, I don't feel to share, so I'm not going to share. So just know that there was a family breakdown, and it was essentially between my biological parents and the family members that were looking after me. Not long, literally not long after the family arguments, like there were words that were exchanged, like things happen. So not long after that, I got pulled up for a chat, and it was basically like, oh, we're going to Angola on holiday, and yeah, like for the summer. So it was the summer holiday were coming up. So for me, it was just like, okay, yeah, I'm going on holiday for the summer. Big mistake. Big mistake. I should have like alarm bells should have been going, but there were no alarm bells. Like for me, it was just like, well, what's happening is between the adults. It's got nothing to do with me. But I wasn't thinking that way. Leading to the holiday, the trip to Angola, a lot of things were just happening in the family where it's like, even in the household, the dynamic of the household changed, where people were now taking calls in secret, like people were going into like rooms, closing doors, having secret conversations. And I just felt like everyone was tiptoeing around me. I just felt like everyone was sort of like walking on, like stepping on eggshells, like no one wanted to say anything. And I heard a conversation where it was like, yeah, she's gonna stay there, she's not gonna come back. I heard that. So when I heard that now, yeah, for me it was like, are they talking about me? Like, I'm not gonna come back. And I was like, no, I heard you on the phone, you said I'm not gonna come back. She was like, no, I wasn't talking about you, da da da. Cool. And I just left it. Because at the end of the day, they were adults and I was obviously the young person. So anyone who grew up in an African household, specifically a narcissistic African household, then you would know that, you know, when you're the child, you don't really have much of a say. So for me, it was like, rah, I really did hear you say that she's not gonna come back. She doesn't know that she's not gonna come back. But hey, it is what it is. It's already gone, right? It's already happened. So when I got to Angola, I stayed in an area, it's called Bairro do Sapo. Like I stayed no Sapo. So if you're Angolan and you've been to Angola and you know Bairro do Sapo, then you know where I was. But for those of you who don't know, basically I stayed in what some people would call the slums, what some people would call the ghetto, what some people would call not basically the city. So I wasn't really in the city like that. Being in Angola, I then found out that I weren't coming back. You lot, when I tell you, my heart was doing backflips. My mind was scrambled. Like, I went through so many different emotions when I found out I wasn't coming back. Like, I went through so many emotions. And obviously, like, my passport and that were taken from me. So I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. I was just in Angola. Like, I was just in Angola. You know, I was with family members and stuff. But bearing in mind, I grew up in the UK. So I didn't really have a relationship like that with the family there. So for me, it was just like, who are these people? These people are strangers to me. I'm so sorry. Like, I know, you know, and the thing is, like, I literally met my dad for the first time when I went as well. So everything happened so quickly. Everything was happening so quickly. But while I was there, I didn't go to school or anything like that. So that really made me think of school. Like, it made me miss school. It made me think of like my friends and things like that. Like, and I started to get really sad. At the same time, there was no time to be sad. Like, there was no time to be sad. There was no time to sit down and dwell on it. Like, as the days went by, the more hungry I was starting to become. Like, and when I say hungry, I'm not referring to like hunger in my belly. Like, we had food, but I'm referring to like the hunger in terms of like the hustle. So I started to sell in the market, no, Palanca. So if you guys know the market in Palanca, then you obviously, you know, if you know, you know. But yeah, so I was now selling in the market. I was selling shoes, and these were literally like my mum's merch. So she was selling shoes, so there were times where I'll go to the market for her and sell shoes. And for me, it was like, damn, I used to live in the UK and now I'm here. And don't get me wrong, like, I love Angola. Like, I love my country. Since then, I've been back. Like, I've been back numerous times and I love my country. But what I'm referring to is going back as a teenager and you've been lied to. Like, I was lied to. They told me I was going on holiday. Then all of a sudden, it was no longer a holiday. All of a sudden, they took away my passport and stuff. So for me, it was like, I'm here and I'm stranded against my will with family members that I don't even know like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, like everyone has their bonds and stuff. Like, I felt so alone. I felt so isolated. I felt so confused. I felt so, I just felt betrayed. Like, there was a feeling of betrayal. I felt so betrayed, literally. In terms of like for money, I was selling in the market. So when I would sell in the market, I would give my mum the money and she would give me some for obviously selling for the day. I was doing hair, making some money from that. And yeah, and essentially I was just getting by. Yeah, like, I was getting by, and at the same time, it's like hustle mode was turned on. Hustle mode was turned on, and I was like, listen, I've got to do what I've got to do to survive in this place. I've got some way, somehow I've got to make a way. I've got to find a way to get out of here, or I've got to find a way to get myself out of this situation. So I think it was like a year after being in Angola, I did have help. So I ended up going to the British Embassy. The first thing I did was I called them, like, we called them. And when I say we, like, I'm talking about a neighbor. Like, this neighbor literally just helped me. He was like, listen, you can't be here. You don't even, first of all, you don't even belong. You don't even know what it is to be here. Like, this is not something you're used to. I can tell. I can see you're not from here. Like, when you go back home, they know that you didn't grow up there. Like, they just know. I don't know how they know, but they know. So obviously I'm there now. Called the embassy and we were like, hi, you know, I explained to them the situation and they were like, okay, well, this was a Friday. So they were like, okay, we'll give you an appointment as soon as possible, which was the Monday. And yeah, bring any form of ID. I was like, ID? I don't have no ID. And they were like, no, don't worry, like, just, you know, just bring yourself. So went to the British Embassy, and the only form of ID, or the only form of identification I had was my Oyster card. Like, are you lot deep in it? I just had my Oyster card. I had my Oyster card. So yeah, I just showed them that and they were like, yeah, no, it's fine. By the time I got there, they had already called my school, because when I spoke to them on the phone, I gave them my details. I gave them my name, date of birth, where we lived in London. I was like, yeah, we live in Croydon, New Adderton. I just basically told them everything, name of my school. By the time I arrived to the appointment on that Monday, they had already contacted my school. They had already contacted social services, wondering why social services hadn't done anything about it. They had already contacted the family them that I lived with in the UK. When I got to the British Embassy, they were like, listen, where have you been staying? I was like, oh, I was staying at ABC. They were like, listen, you can't even go back there no more. You can't go back there no more because the way we see this case, like, it seems like they smuggled you. I was like, what? They were like, yeah, so we're gonna claim, hey, British people are different, you know. English people are different. They were like, yeah, so we're gonna find a safe space for you to stay while we're dealing with this. So don't worry. Cool. I ended up living in a nunnery, you guys. So I ended up living in a nunnery. There were nuns there. There were also young people there, because it was almost like it was a convent. Like, it was a convent. It was a nunnery, but it was also like an orphanage. So there were kids there that had been abandoned, like kids that had been abandoned. Like, and the thing is, I lived there with them. I lived there with them, and I got to know them. There were kids, different ages. The youngest child there was like, what, 1 year old. And they literally, like, they picked her up from the rubbish. Like, they literally picked up that little girl. Like, her mum had her and just dashed her. So the fact that I was even in that nunnery and I was hearing other kids, like other young people's stories, and I was like, whoa, like, I thought my situation was bad. I thought my situation was bad, but you lot's situation is just as bad. Like, you lot's situation is just as bad. So at that time, I made friends with, the girls, because it was girls only. It was a girls only place. So I made friends with the girls that lived there, and yeah, and that was just my place for a bit. And I was there for like, what, 8 months. I was there for 8 months. The case was in court. So, before the emergency passport had come out, they had to sort of like speak to the Angolan authorities, because I was underage and things like that. So, and the Angolan authority were fighting for me, where they were like, no, Carla is Angolan. Yes, she's British, but she's Angolan. So we need to make sure that we're dealing with this in the best way possible. So obviously they got in contact with the family and all of that stuff. And oh my days, dude, that was a whole different kind of worms. When I tell you, that was the hardest 2 years I've ever had in my whole life. Like, I felt every emotion. I was depressed. I was full of anxiety. I had no trust for anyone. I was suicidal. Like every emotion that you can imagine, every negative emotion you can imagine, I had it. Like, I was anxious all the time. Like, it was crazy. I said a prayer. And I was like, God, you know that prayer that everyone says, like, when they're in a sticky situation? I was like, God, if you take me out of this situation, I promise you, I will dedicate my life to you. Like, I will dedicate my life to you. I will serve you for the rest of my life. I literally said that. And I went to bed. You lot, I kid you not. I kid you not. I said that prayer one day. When I tell you, 2 days went by, emergency passport came out. There was already a place for me to stay when I got back in the UK. And literally just like that, they were like, yeah, get ready, it's time for you to go. And it was so sad, because I now had to say goodbye to these friends that I've made. I now had to say goodbye to them. And it was so heartbreaking, because as much as I wanted to go, because all I wanted to do was leave. Like, all I wanted to do was leave. I wanted to leave. I wanted to come back here, because this was home. This was home for me. So, but when I made friends, and obviously I built that connection with the girls, like, yo, 9 months is a long time. 8 months is a long time. So built that connection with them. I got attached to them, and obviously I had attachment issues, abandonment issues. So we sort of like trauma bonded in that way. But yeah, so that was that literally. And the people from the British Embassy came to pick me up, and they took me to the airport. I actually flew first class. Hey, see the God I serve, yeah? The God I serve does not let me down. Like, I know for a fact that I had to go through that. I had to go through that for me to become the woman that I am today. And let me tell you, the woman that I am today, I am unshakable. You cannot shake me. You cannot, right? So anyways, so long story short, when I got back to the UK, I went into foster care. I ended up coming back right to Croydon, because they were like to me, oh, you know, because obviously the family live in Croydon. Are you sure you want to go back to Croydon? I was like, I'm not running from anyone. Because my friends were in Croydon. Do you know what I mean? My friends were in Croydon. I had a whole life here. Because they were talking about, oh, do you want to go maybe like Nottingham, Birmingham, Manchester? I was like, no, I want to go back to London and I want to go back to Croydon. So ended up coming back to Croydon. I went to, I lived in foster care. I lived in a Jamaican household. When I tell you, my foster mum, she is literally heaven sent. Like, she is literally heaven sent. And when I came back, she enrolled me in college. I went into college, done a course, finished that, went to university, done my undergrad in international business, finished that, went on to do my master's in digital marketing, banged that, grabbed that degree. Literally, like, and life just went on, you know, and I started working. And to be honest, as soon as I got my NI number, I started working, because I had already developed that hustle mentality from Angola. So where I was already sort of like making my own money and sort of like looking after myself, that survival mode kicked in. Because for me, it was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be in a situation again where people are going to do to me what was done to me before. So I need to make sure I'm ready. So I was constantly on survival mode, constantly on fight or flight mode, constantly just surviving and not actually living. So yeah, I was very much like just dived into my career and just focused on work, focused on getting the bag, focused on making my money, and that was that for me. And obviously with that then came relationships. So, you know, I kissed a couple of frogs here and there along the way, but then I got into a relationship. It was a long-term relationship. Like, we were together for years. But then we broke up. And that breakup mashed me up in a different way. But what I really do believe is that God sort of like took me out of that relationship, because there was so much healing that there was a healing journey I needed to embark on. So 2018, my healing journey started. My self-healing, self-development journey started. And since that day, my life has not been the same. And obviously here I am now, sharing some of the things that I've learned along the way, along my healing journey. I'm sharing that with you guys. And yeah, today I felt compelled to share my story, and so that I can bring you in a little bit, and so that you can get to understand where I'm actually coming from in terms of how I think, you know, where the advice comes from. Like, I believe that we all have a pain that probably never gonna leave, but it's there for your purpose, but it's also there for the glory of God, right? So yeah, I'm gonna be sharing as time goes by, but thank you for watching this video. Whew, my God, I don't know how, like, I don't know how I was gonna feel, like, but yeah. So thank you for watching this video. I will be sharing more about my story, about how life's gone and things like that, life experiences. But for now, this is it. I'll see you on the next video. Beijinhos. Beijinhos. Ciao.